Welcome back to another episode of The Art of Volunteering. I'm your host, Stormy Bell. Today, we're having one of my new friends. Theresa Hummel-Krallinger, hopefully I said that right. And I met at a breakfast and learn session, and she was presenting on culture in the workplace. And I invited her to be on our show today because volunteering can be an aspect of what that culture looks like. But we'll dive into that in a moment. A little about Theresa. She has her own company, High Five Performance, where she works with leaders to create places where people want to work. She is also a paid comedian on the weekends, but her volunteer passion is with Meet the Author. For the last 11 years, she has provided both in person and virtual programming showcasing over 175 nonfiction authors. The group is number 4 on Philadelphia Business Journal list of best business networking associations. So, welcome. I am
Thank you
so
for having
excited
me.
that you're going to be here today.
I am honored that you included me. Thank you.
So, let's just dive right in. You work with leaders to create places where people want to work. And I've been around enough places of working to know how important that is. Like if you can enjoy your job and hate where you work, and you're not going to be there very long. The more you love the place you work, the longer you're with that organization, which benefits the organization, not just the
Yes.
individual. So let's start there. How does what does that look like?
Well, as you can imagine, there's enough work available that I could do this for the rest of my life and have not completed what is needed because there's a lot of workplaces that could use some love. So, what it really entails is getting into a workplace, connecting with leaders, and getting a sense of how can we build a strategy or how can we build a culture that supports your strategy and what might be getting in the way. And that whole people infrastructure, as you know, Stormy, is incredibly important to supporting getting things done in the business. So I tend to work with two kinds of organizations. One, organizations that already get it, they're already doing it well. And I am there just to continue to sharpen the saw with them, to bring new ideas and to kind of put my hand on HR's back and the executive team's back so that they continue to create an awesome culture. Then there are organizations that are not where they want to be, but they really want to be. Like they know they have a good product, they have a good service, they know that their people infrastructure and their organizational culture is important, but they're not quite sure what to do. So those are the two kinds of organizations. One, rock stars that I learn from, and others that want to be rock stars. So it's the best work. Many days I pinch myself. I cannot believe I get paid to do work that is so noble and fun. It's fun work.
That's great. So we're building culture. We want it to be a place where people want to work. How does how does volunteering fit into that? Like, how does that become a value added in the workplace?
Well, any workplace that I've ever been that I've really liked, there was a volunteering aspect to it. You know, if I look back, so my first real job, I've had some other jobs before the real job, but the first real job was at Prudential. And at Prudential, we actually had a committee for volunteering. And part of that volunteering, we might go to a food pantry and serve meals. We might go to, and I remember this so well because it just gave my soul such a good feeling. We went and did tutoring for children that were in schools where they couldn't fit in with a regular school. So they go to like this other kind of school, but they needed more one on one. So Prudential would actually give us a van. We had Prudential vans, and we would go and we would do tutoring one on one with these children. And as much as I think they enjoyed it, we got so much from that. Certainly when I worked at Almec, we adopted a charity every year. pick a nonprofit and we would do fundraisers. We would go and support whatever that charity was. It made it, as much as we love our organization and what it does, it made it more of a community. It wasn't just going to work. We're bigger than that. We think beyond ourselves. At Almac, we did a lot of volunteer work with Souderton High School. So Souderton High School was our neighboring high school, and we were kind of hoping to plant seeds like, hey, you may want to prepare yourselves to come work with us because we're very, very close. So we would do things, and I continue to do this with Souderton, interview practice with students. So you're actually helping these students who many have never been on a job interview, and those that have, it's usually, for like a fast food place, really showing them how do you behave? What are the things you say and do in a job interview? All this to say, Stormy, I think volunteerism is a wonderful add-on benefit to a workplace. I really do.
What do you think the biggest, let's say aspect, but where do I want benefit it is for the workplace to have volunteer? Is it just building the community, or is there something else that the company why they would want to have it?
And as well, one, it's building their brand in the community. So there's
Okay.
that. One of the cool things about these volunteer projects is you have people at mixed levels in the organization coming together, and we're all taking off our hats, right? We're taking off our vice president hat. We're taking off our programmer hat. We're taking off our trainer hat. And we are just good people going out to make a difference. So it's kind of cool, particularly if you don't have a lot of interaction with your senior team, to go out to a site to do community work or volunteer work. And you've got an executive vice president who is next to you, and they're helping to put food on a plate just as you are. So I think it's that mixing of levels, and we get to see each other as human beings. I love that aspect of workplace volunteerism.
I like that. It's leveling the playing field so people have more of a mutual respect for each other, which
Yes.
only benefits when you go into the meetings, when you are looking for advancement, you know them on a human level, not just a title level.
Absolutely. And they know you,
True.
right? So that's cool too. So now when you get on an elevator or you see each other passing in the hall, you think about, hey, we were together at the food pantry serving meals. Or hey, we were together at Souderton High School doing interview practice with students. So it is definitely more than just a community builder. It's helping to build connections that don't naturally happen.
You may or may not have this answer, but have you ever seen has it ever been tracked that culture volunteering actually helps like employee retention?
It's funny. There's got to be data out there, but I have a list, and you were in my presentation that day. You probably saw my culture list.
Yes.
One of the items on the list is giving back to the community, is having that connection. So you're stepping outside your campus and what you do normally to give back, because employees are more engaged. It's not just a job. It's bigger than that. Right? And I look back, I have to tell you, Prudential was really my foundation, and they had a lot of best practices that I continue to share. And I have been at, let's see, when did I leave there? 2002. So it's been a long time, but I continue some of the best practices I learned there, because our culture was rich, but it wasn't just one thing that made it rich. It was, we had a very robust recreation committee. So we played together. We played sports. We went together and we saw plays. We had tickets to the Phillies. But we also had this community service group, and it was vibrant. And we went and did a lot of good things. I have no doubt, as a person who has studied culture and professionally is paid to help people with culture, when you do volunteer activities, it does improve your employee engagement. I have no doubt. I don't have the data. I wish I had the data. It's got to be out.
I got to think that even now, when we are on um, people working from home or hybrid activities, that it creates a space where people can come together and get to know each other because
Yes.
people are being interviewed remotely. Their first day of work is at their table in their kitchen, or if they're fortunate enough to have a separate office where this will actually get them together and working for something beyond themselves.
Absolutely. I would think they welcome it. Now, you know what? You know this for me. It's not for everybody, right? There are
Right.
going to be people in the organization that are like, why don't I do something after work? When I'm done work, I'm done.
Right.
But I think the vast majority welcome an opportunity to do something to give back. I think many of us were so busy all day long. We want to give back, but we don't even have the time to figure out what to do. So when the company provides us with an opportunity and says, this Saturday, we're going to Ronald McDonald House, or this, after work, we're going to Manna on Main Street and we're going to do some work for them. Many employees would welcome that opportunity.
Very true. Very true. All right, let's pivot slightly. I know that you do volunteer work, and it's a little different than putting food on a plate in the food kitchen. You
Yes.
work you work with Meet the Author.
Yes.
Just dive into it.
It's a scary thing, Stormy, because it did not start out to be what it has become. For me, it was a very simple idea. I joined the Pyramid Club, which is a professional business club in Philadelphia. It's wonderful, 52nd floor of the Mellon building, beautiful view out the windows. It's a place you can go and you can have meals. There's a lounge area where you can work. And then they have big meeting rooms. So if you want to have events, you can plan events there. So I joined as a business person because I needed a space to meet clients in Center City. So within 6 months of joining, like, this is amazing. I wonder what I could do to give back. And I thought about it. I thought, you know what? I have a ton of authors who are my friends, tons of published authors, and they're smart and their topics are diverse. But I think they would be very interesting to members at the club. So I pitched the idea and they immediately said yes. My vision was small. My vision was a round table. So we have the author come, we might have a dozen people there, and the author shares all about their book. We get to ask them questions. We can buy a book, they sign it, and we've had a happy evening. That was my initial vision.
Okay.
What it has become after, and we will be starting our 11th year in September, which is just crazy. It has become this really big hub for nonfiction authors in the city of Philadelphia to come and do a book launch or just share their wisdom with an audience. There's so many, in fact, that I now create panels so I can get more people in. For instance, I do 2 women's author panels every year, and I have 8 people on each panel, which I
Oh,
know
wow.
seems crazy, but I have 8
Yeah.
of them because that's really the most you can handle and have in the room and give them their space. But
Mhm.
they all have a table. So when people come in, grab a cocktail, they get some hors d'oeuvres, they go over, they literally meet the authors and get to talk to them. Then we have our panel discussion. And then afterwards, they go back to their tables and sell more books and have pictures taken. And it's wonderful. One of my favorite panels was last October. We had a Philadelphia author panel. So these are people who wrote about the city of Philadelphia.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, it was the best night ever. Each one of these authors easily could have done their own program. Like their thought leadership was so deep and so interesting. They all could do their own program. But we had 8 of them at a table. We had a gentleman who wrote a book about having a secret apartment in Veterans Stadium.
Oh my.
Very cool. He was awesome. We had a woman who wrote about Boathouse Row, and it's almost like a coffee table book, just beautiful photos of Boathouse Row. We had Thomas Keels. Tom Keels is a good friend of mine. He's written 6 or 7 books on the city of Philadelphia from a historical perspective. He also gives tours at Laurel Hill Cemetery.
Nice.
We had, I know, Meg Strawbridge Butterworth. So Meg Strawbridge is part of the Strawbridge and Clothier family. So she wrote a wonderful book, and I loved it because I'm a culture maven. And she talked about the amazing culture at Strawbridge and Clothier. So we had 8 authors on that panel, and everyone was amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Makes me want to come down sometime. And I don't
Stormy,
go
you
in
are
the city
always
too much.
welcome.
I'll have to take the train in.
That's what I do. I take the train in. 'Cause I'm not a big fan of parking in Center City. It's always a challenge for me. So take the train.
Okay, and I'll plan to do that. That's amazing. All right, from Meet the Author and people coming in and hearing these stories, can you share a story of impact with us?
There, you know what? There's some general observations that they're not individual stories, but it's like it's a good thing that happens. The authors are amazing, and we always learn from them. Their topics are great, but the impact is really the people you meet that come to meet the author. So you have networking time before, you have networking time afterwards, and sometimes the author makes it interactive, so you might have a chance to meet somebody during their talk as well. People leave there with connections that help them find work, that give them answers to questions that they had, that provide them with resources that they didn't know about. So the networking there is absolutely rich, and you leave with more than just a signed book. You leave with you leave with a friend. You
Friend, an
know?
experience. Just
Yes.
yeah,
So I think that is like the overall impact. I think we've really been impacted by some of the authors we've had. Um, oh my gosh. And of course, I'm terrible with names, but there have been some authors with stories that really touch your soul and get you thinking about life. And yeah, so it's that is why I continue doing it, because I do not get paid for this.
right.
It is a labor of love. In fact, I take a loss. So I had to, because of all the administrative things that had to be done, I hired an administrative assistant. Now she is in South Carolina. She's wonderful. So she helps me take care of setting up the event right and doing the social media postings, because I was doing all of that myself.
Right.
So I pay her. She does it. It's great. I have to continue to pay to be a member of the Pyramid Club so that I can host my meetings there. So it definitely, it's not just giving of the programs, but financially it's a giving.
Right.
But I think it's just so worth it because so much good comes out of it.
That's amazing. Oh, I love that.
You have to come,
It's so
Stormy.
different than anything anyone I've spoken to. I just think that's so cool.
Well, I probably, if I were, I'm always a little slow on doing what should have been done. Let's just
Okay.
say that.
All
It
right.
probably should be a nonprofit, a not for profit. I know friends of mine created Learning and Development Philadelphia, which is a professional organization for L&D professionals,
Right.
and it's a nonprofit. Like they officially created a nonprofit, and they get to reap the benefits of that as well. So now that I keep saying, am I going to do this another year? Now that I've done it for over 10 years,
Right.
perhaps it will be an official nonprofit. And because I clearly am not going to give up doing it. So I may as well make it official.
I think you should.
I think so too.
I think
Keep
you
after me,
should.
Stormy. Keep after me.
You let me know when it's official. We'll put
Right.
in the we'll put your information in the show notes so people can find out when it's ready to go.
There you go. I mean, right now, so I do have a website. So people can go
Okay.
out to the website, which is meettheauthorpc.com. So
Okay.
anybody who goes out to meettheauthorpc.com, you can see what's coming. And right now we've got September 12th. We have, I refer to them as the Cake Ladies, but they're 3 sisters who own a company locally that makes liquor infused cakes,
Ooh.
and they're delicious. And you want to read their book, not just to hear about them starting their company, but a good, probably more than half the book is about their childhood, which is sobering
Yeah.
and amazing. But it just gives you such perspective on, here are these three women who grew up in a family with so many challenges, and they are joyful, they are creative, they are full of love and life. And it's amazing.
And you said that's in September?
September 12th, doors open at 6. And if anybody wants to come, I'm going to give you a little discount code. We keep the entrance fee really just to cover costs anyway. But if
Right.
you use the code Theresa Friend, all one word, Theresa Friend, you will get 50% off. Boom. There you go.
That's awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
I'll have to see if it works in my schedule. Well,
There you should come. You will love it. And I'm starting finally this is because I'm going down that path for nonprofit. I'm starting a board of directors,
nice.
getting together a group of people who love this as much as I do, to say, what do we want the next 10 years to be?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love
Fun
it.
stuff.
Okay. Here's the question that all my guests love to answer.
Okay.
Can you share a blooper, possibly from
Yes.
Meet the Author? And now, a blooper does not mean it went wrong. It just didn't go as planned. And what did you learn from the experience?
There's a couple bloopers. One was a scary blooper.
Ooh.
It was a scary blooper. So in the early days of Meet the Author, when we were getting maybe 20, 25 people, we would pack into this fairly small conference room. Like we barely fit. We're like squeezed in there. And this is open to the public. So Pyramid Club members, obviously they can come, but then I post it for people who are not members to come. So it's public. Anybody can sign up and come. And we had a woman there who I had never seen before, well dressed, not young. When I say not young, late 50s, early 60s.
Okay.
And the author that I had that night was Matthew Christopher, who is wonderful. Matthew Christopher has a forum and books called Abandoned America. And he takes pictures of all these abandoned churches and abandoned businesses. Wonderful. He is such a cool guy. So anyway, he is presenting. Let's be honest, he's a photographer. He's not a professional presenter. So he did say to us up front, hold your questions to the end, because I want to get through my content, and just hold your questions to the end. And this woman, I'll never forget it, just raising her hand and interrupting and asking really disturbing questions.
Oh.
Really, sorry, it was like blowing my mind. I'm like, in all of the risk assessment I have done, this never entered my mind. And I said, wow, I'm kind of running the show here, and I don't know who she is, but I have to honor first and foremost my author who's presenting, as well as the audience. So I asked her to come outside because she was getting really loud, and she did come outside with me, but it got pretty heated, and it was totally unexpected. And I have not thought of it in years, Stormy. I have not thought of that in years. That had to be like year 2 when that happened. So yeah, that was a blooper. But I got her out of the room, and we actually had to have security escort her out. And yeah, there you go. That never happened again.
So what did you learn from that?
I learned to not be afraid to stop the presentation. And if somebody is disruptive, to get them out fearlessly.
Okay.
And I did. But when you have open events, Stormy, you don't,
You don't
for
know.
the most part, we're getting business professionals, right? And she looked the part. But yeah, it was interesting because the front desk, I remember going down and talking to them afterwards, and they sometimes request ID. And she was from Maryland. And I thought, wow, that was a long trek. She came from Maryland. So anyhow, the other bloopers are sometimes I can tell a speaker is kind of digging a hole for themselves. And it's rare because most of my speakers are amazing, but he's digging a hole for, and I have to jump in to be like, you know what? Why don't I ask you questions? Why don't we take it down this path? And what I've learned from that again is don't be afraid to interrupt and take it down the path it needs to
A
go down.
different path. Yeah.
Craziness. Look at you bringing up all these, make me think of all these crazy stories. Yeah, that was wild.
So what I'm hearing is you, as the leader, whatever capacity that looks like, you need to be fearless. You
You
just
do need to be fearless.
take your authority in hand appropriately
Yes.
and be assertive to the situation.
Yeah.
And that way don't shy away from it.
Yes.
Because everyone will benefit from you being fearless.
Well, I like to kind of be in the background. Like I love hosting it, but I really want the center of attention to be the author. So when something happens that I need to intervene, I'm like, all right, you gotta jump in here. You gotta interrupt, but I'm not afraid.
Well, do you know you're not afraid because you're a comedian.
That's true. That's
okay,
true.
Tell me about this. I don't think I've had a comedian on the podcast before.
So back in the day, what's it, 2002, when I left Prudential, I had some time on my hands. I was just starting my company, and for the first time, I actually had time. Because when you're working for a big company, just that's where your time goes. So Montgomery County Community College had a course in stand-up comedy. It was an 8-week class. It was $89, and it was 5 minutes from my house because the community college is right here. And I thought, I'll never be a comedian. That's not why I'm taking this. I'm taking this because I do training, I do presentations, and wouldn't it be nice to weave humor into my work? So for $89, it was an investment. We went through the 8 weeks. Your goal is to write a 5 to 7 minute set. You will actually get on stage and do.
Wow.
Yeah, using all of the techniques that the instructor taught us. And there's all kinds of techniques which I do use in my speaking and training. So there's a graduation show that the instructor plans at a venue, and we had over 200 people come to this graduation show. I remember the class started with 20 people. We had 9 actually graduate. So 9 people said, yes, I will get on stage and tell jokes. So of course my family came and were like, I can't believe she's doing this. This is crazy. She's so, HR is it's so serious, right? And I had fun with it. I did my 5 to 7. I got laughs, and I decided I'm going to take an advanced comedy class. That's what you do. I take another class. So then I worked myself up to about 10, 12 minutes, and was started to be invited to MC shows.
Mhm.
That's really all you need is about 10 or 12 minutes. You can start to MC shows. So then I was getting paid to do that. And then I worked to write more material. At this point, I got about 30 minutes. I love 20. 20 is my sweet spot. So I open shows. I feature for shows. I am not a headliner.
Okay.
But I have been doing paid comedy for 22 years. And it has been an amazing gift. Just an amazing gift. So
That
there's the
sounds like
long
so much
story.
fun. Yeah, but I love it. I mean,
It is so much fun. Now, you will not see me at a comedy club per se, maybe, but I do a lot of private events. I do a lot of fundraisers. I'm probably most at home in the gymnasium of a Catholic church where they have a good 200-300 people there to see a comedy show for a fundraiser. But I'm not edgy enough to do a lot of the club shows.
okay.
As you can imagine, I'm not going to drop an F bomb. I'm going to be very kind of color inside the lines, but it's fun. It is really fun and a blessing.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really cool.
Come see a show. My website is teresahkcomedy.com.
All
So
right.
teresahkcomedy.com. Go out there. My next shows, I actually have so much travel going on this summer. I didn't pick up a lot of shows, but I know I have a couple things coming up in the fall.
I will definitely check that out.
Fun, fun.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Teresa, thank you for being my guest today. I have so enjoyed our conversation. Anywhere from the authors to culture to you being a comedian, I just know that all my listeners thoroughly enjoyed hearing our conversation. I just love it. So thank you so much.
You. It's an honor to be on the show and be in a circle of other people who believe in giving back.
Thank you. To my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you could rate or review wherever you listen to this podcast, I would greatly appreciate it because it truly does help others hear about volunteering and how together we can restore the fabric of our society. Thank you and have a great day. Bye bye.